Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Woo-hoo.
Welcome to Conversations with SOTU. I'm Josh Schwartzbach.
And I'm Adrienne Metcalf. Josh is a professional channel, a medium, and he channels a consciousness we call SOTU. He's been doing this for quite a number of years. It's very easy for him to do, as you'll see in just a moment. Do question everything that you hear from us today. Decide for yourself if it rings true for you or not. Josh, are you ready?
I am ready.
Here we go.
All right. Welcome, dear ones. We are SOTU, and this is Conversations with SOTU for May the 1st. Mayday, Mayday! 2017, or Mayday Dance Around the Maypole, whatever your choice may be. And we invite you to join us on another journey through the infinite realms of your imagination. So this is episode 9 of our first presentation here at CTSB. And we wish to tell you that it has been purposeful right from the beginning until now. This began on, believe it or not, the channel's birthday, 70th birthday, and is drawing to a close on the 1st of May, 2017, in order for us to, and you to, begin to understand the gravity of the choices that you are facing on a spiritual, on an emotional, and also on a physical level. These are choices that are going to govern the dynamics of who you are going to be for the next few hundred years. And so the choices that you begin to make over the next few weeks or few months are going to be important in the dynamics of your movement as a species. The question ultimately is, will you choose to become an advanced civilization? Or will you choose to revisit the old dynamics that keep asking you if you are sure that you wish to move forward? And are you going to begin to take the dynamics of mastery, which you all have the ability of within you, over your reality? Are you going to continue to allow the whims, and we do mean whims, of others to govern your future? And this is really what you face right now, and you face in the dynamics of your future. There has been a language going on between you and your soul for thousands and thousands of years. Up until the past few years, this dynamic has been unconscious. But more and more, especially in the 20th century, began the whole dynamic of movement of consciousness that began to move you forward. And with each step forward, your reality continually asks you if you are sure that you wish to move forward. Well, you have obviously given more than ambiguous messages, because in fact you have moved forward. And so if you look at the dynamic, you will begin to realize that over the past 80 years, your reality has been asking you with increasing imperative, who is it that you are going to be? We talked to you last week and the week before about the reflections of Are You Sure in your world. We talked to you about the dynamics of how the movement, the changes that occurred, the positive dynamic, the positive movement forward on the millennium pushed the limits of human consciousness, pushed the limits of human awareness, that led to a dynamic of Are You Sure that was as consequential as the election of George W. Bush in the year 2000. That's when he was inaugurated.
Yes.
That, Are you sure? We would say to you, you answered somewhat ambiguously, because what you were being asked at that time was nothing less than to stand on your truth, to stand upon who you as Americans kept stating who you were. Mm-hmm. Mother, apple pie, connection, living for freedom. The whole dynamic, everything that stood for America, the goodness of America, the positive dynamics of America, teaching, being a role model to the entire world. This is who you kept stating, who you were. You kept repeating it, reiterating it over and over again. Thought, word, feeling. So that a whole dynamic of energy was building up behind it. An energy that was going to say to you, is this who you really are? And that election that occurred in 1999 and into 2000 was asking you very loudly that question. And we would say at the very least you gave an ambiguous message. Now we know, we're not blaming, because we know where this one was at and that one was at during that time. And they were all so involved and distracted with other dynamics that they paid no attention. We know that this one could have cared less about the election of 2000. He thought, oh, well, you know, the Democrats have had 8 years. Give George a chance. Sure. Maybe it will work out.
Sure.
You know, kind of an echo of the present.
Well, and a live and let live sort of attitude.
Well, but again, that if you look at the dynamic of what's really being asked of you, there are basically two types of people in your world. There are those that seek to control, and then there are those that are live and let live kinds of people. The problem is that with the live and let live kinds of people, they've let the controllers have, what shall we say, mastery over the physical reality, mastery over each of you in your own way. And you've allowed it, because you either create your reality or you allow it. And so here you find yourself in a position of seeming disempowerment. But in fact, if you're willing to take responsibility, you have each in your own way abdicated responsibility. And for many of you, that abdication was brought home with the election of 2000. Now that didn't stop the Are You Sures, because less than a year later, or just about a year later, you had the dynamics of 9/11. And that was like a clashing of the symbols. That was such a great opportunity for humanity. Such a great opportunity untaken. As we talked about the dynamic of Ezekiel's wheel a couple of weeks ago, in the dynamic of reality and your souls in presentation to you of the opportunities that you wish to take along the dynamics of your reality, what you wish to do, and all of you, each and every one of you, chose to be here at this very important time in human transformation. Now notice we did not cannot say evolution, because evolution is an unconscious dynamic, and this transformation needs to be conscious. It will not happen from the subconscious. It will not happen from the unconscious, although the unconscious is pushing you forward and is urging you with that dynamic of, if you could even identify what that urge of growth is, but the dynamic to be more. The stretch, the movement in the dynamic to be more. And in the dynamic of movement to be more, you hit your are you sures. And so the species is moving forward no matter what. You might consider it an ascending spiral of energy, but the truth of the dynamic ultimately is that with each step forward, your reality, if you're going to really cement it in, your actions must follow your thoughts, must follow your words. In other words, dear ones, you must learn to walk your talk. If you're going to say it, believe it. Know it to be true for you, and you will not go wrong. If you can trust that dynamic within yourself. But just as a species that's in its adolescence, we would suggest to you that we teach difficulty that has happened, especially in the past decade, in the past 20 years even, has been such that you have acted and reacted as adolescents. You have not realized that that is the choice that is being given to you each time you hit one of these dynamics of trauma. The 9/11 situation. The reaction to 9/11 was so adolescent in its dynamic. We were in New York City on the 16th of September that year. We had a very, very large group, obviously. And we asked, what did you think that this was for you? What did this represent for you? And almost to a person, each person said a wake-up call. Well, do you think that this woke you up, or do you think this had you retreat more into your adolescence so that you then had to have the savior, you then had to strike back, you then had to get revenge because it made you angry, it made you enraged? But Adrienne, what is the source of anger?
Usually it's an unreasonable expectation and fear.
And fear. And fear. It scared you. And instead of reacting to your fear as adults, you acted as adolescents. You allowed yourself to be manipulated. And so much wrong has been done in your name ever since. The dynamics of 9/11 led to the war, GWAT, the Global War Against Terror. Dear ones, none of that needed to occur. That came from an adolescent choice. A choice of negative ego, and you can go back into the earlier shows for the explanation of negative ego, that piece of you that did not wish to grow, that piece of you that acts and reacts only from the reptilian brain, black or white, either or, right or wrong.
You're either with us or you're against us.
There is no gray area. There is no place for a multicolored universe in that line of thinking. And dear ones, that began a clash of civilizations. And in 2006, on Boxing Day, that clash of civilizations presented itself and manifested itself physically with the earthquake and tsunami in the Indian Ocean. And if you looked at the scientific evidence of what occurred, it was two plates pushing against each other until there was clash of civilizations, a slippage. And in that slippage, 250,000 people chose to leave the planet together. And in that dynamic, if you understand the dynamics of the spiritual realms, and that no one lives or dies by accident, then we would tell you that 250,000 people leaving at the same time is sending a loud message to you. A message to seek peace, a way to alleviate the pressure. It's been 11 years since that dynamic, and there has been innumerable movement and changes. There have been many situations where you have been being asked if you are sure. And we would suggest to you, dear ones, that you are not answering very well. In your most recent times, you are coming up into a situation where you are facing pieces of self that on the one hand seem so deeply buried and so poignant and so meaningful for you, and yet there seems to be no way, no answer within the frameworks of what you have established, within the governments that you have established, within the schools that you have established, to find the truth. There's only one place to find the truth, dear ones, and that is within your heart. But in order to find the truth, you must trust yourself. And how can you trust yourself if you are constantly at odds with each other? How can you trust yourself if you cannot find peace within your own heart? And so the first thing that we would ask you is, what is your definition of peace? Is it just a lack of war? So if you can begin to find within yourself that moment that you might have experienced the dynamic of peace, if you can find within yourself that memory of that time when you felt peaceful, you might just begin to work on embellishing that feeling, embellishing that dynamic of emotion. That is what each of you can do in your own way to begin to shift and change the dynamic of consciousness. Is peace even possible in this world? We would say to you, yes, it is, but peace begins with enough for all. Let us reiterate that. Peace begins with enough for all. Can you imagine what it must have been what it would have been in your life? If and the basic dynamics of safety and security were met within the dynamics of your life? If you believed that you were enough, and therefore you understood that there was enough? What if fairness ruled your world? You know, we spoke a little while ago about the dynamics of live and let live and those that control. The problem is that all of you live and let people. live and let live people, you've abdicated responsibility to those that would control you. It's time for live and let live people to stand up and say, no, this is not right. In order to do this, you must find something that you all can agree upon. You might agree upon the fact that if everyone's basic needs were met, food, water, shelter, health care, education, what would that mean? A few years ago, we actually think it was in 2000, 2001, we were working with a number of people from the United Nations Development Program. And we know that these statistics are not accurate at this point, seeing as they're 17 years old. But even at that point, if you took all of the wealth that existed on a GDP on a yearly basis, and you divided that up among the whole population, and you put a salary cap on everyone, each and every individual in your family, each and every individual on the planet could make $28 million a year before anything had to go into the kitty to provide basic needs for everyone else. There is so much wealth in your world. It's time to find a way to move to a new place of reality. It's time to find a way to create peace. But first decide what peace is for you. But the one basic foundational principle of peace is located in your base chakra. For you cannot find peace unless you feel safe and secure. And you will never feel safe and secure as long as you choose to do it all on your own. So it is important that you join your energy. It is important that you come together. And so we offer you the PeaceGenesisProject.org and the ideas behind the Peace Genesis Project in order to perhaps, just perhaps, show you that you have a lot more in agreement than you do in disagreement. We love you. We love you all so very, very much. We will be back probably next week with a little more, what shall we say, light-hearted presentation. Because it is our purpose to to give you an understanding how the reflections of your daily lives begin to present you with the opportunities for movement and growth. And that when you recognize them and respond to them, each of your lives becomes much easier. We love you all so very, very much, and so until the next time we close, sending you peace, sending you happiness, sending you joy.
Thank you for joining us for Conversations with SOTU. If you have questions or even comments, please go to our website and send them along through our contact page. We will be back with a somewhat different format in the next weeks, and we'll invite more of your questions. So please check it out. Thanks again. Until the next time, we'll see you.
You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday